Hello everyone. We are very excited that we have with us former RCB Director of Cricket Operation and one of the most successful coaches of New Zealand cricket and now a YouTuber and content creator, Coach Mike Hesson. First of all, thanks for accepting our invite. And it's morning in New Zealand, a night in India, but we are all excited to chat with you. First of all, how are you, Coach Hesson?
I'm very well, thank you, Vibev. I've been up in the middle of the night and watched the latest IPL games.
I think it's fine if we start with RCB questions because it's been almost 2 years that you and RCB separated, but you still receive so much of love from RCB fans. Were you expecting that kind of love even after leaving RCB, and what do you think is the reason behind it?
Look, I think I don't think you expect anything in terms of praise or adulation. I think I went to RCB, just after some pretty tough times that they were going through, and we had 4 really good years, and I really enjoyed my time at RCB. We weren't able to win a trophy. I think everyone's well aware of that, but we made some good progress. From a position of we would gone last a couple of years in a row or pretty close to it to reaching finals and playoffs. We made some good progress, and I think we generally made some pretty sound decision making during that time. So I think the RCB fans are incredible, and I think they respect that. People that care about RCB genuinely and do everything they can to try and make them be successful, and that's that's all I tried to do during my time. And as I said, I had 4 really good years and thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yeah, now coming to the controversial question. In your preview video, you placed RCB at ninth place in this IPL, and many of the RCB fans were heartbroken. Even though we are only 2 games into the season, are there any changes to your preview, or would you like to keep RCB in the top 4 now?
Oh, look, I think I actually changed RCB to 8th, actually, but obviously, I think there's 2 different things to being a broadcaster, I guess. I mean, I'm a professional broadcaster. I'm not a cheerleader or a fan. I can't act like that in terms of the way I give my thoughts. I guess I look at the squad and it's not so much that RCB have a poor squad. They certainly don't. It's just I thought that other squads were stronger. And I also think whenever you make a prediction like that, you look at 14 rounds rather than 2, obviously. And even after 1 round, a very fine win, RCB against KKR, of which I actually predicted in my preview. Even after that, RCB fans being so passionate, are sort of keen for me to turn my thoughts around and put them in the top 4. And I think they've been very impressive. I thought the second game they were even more so than the first. Going to Chennai, having not won there since I think 2008 or 2012, I'm not quite sure. To play as well as they did and everybody contribute, has been very impressive. But you also can't just look at the leaderboard and go, oh, those are my best sides, because I don't think LSG or GT are up there either. I don't think they'll be there at the back end of the season. So I do think RCB have impressed more than I initially thought, and I'm delighted to hear that, or delighted to see that, because I'll always be an RCB fan. But there's a difference between being a fan and being a professional, broadcaster where you have to give your opinion. So, but yeah, what I would say is RCB have certainly impressed very much in the first 2 games.
Coming to the captain of RCB, the new captain of RCB, Rajat Patidar. Rajat Patidar was introduced under your management. And what were your first thought when you first saw this young man? And how do you rate Rajat captaincy so far?
Personally, I've got a huge amount of time for Rajat Patidar. I mean, he came in as a replacement early at one point. We'd picked him prior to that, seen him, gone to quite a few scouting camps to watch him play for Madhya Pradesh as well. I think what I like from him is against pace, he has a lot of time. So he's never rushed. His movements are quite small. He's got a beautiful bat swing and he can play off both front and back foot, which is a skill that you look for when you're looking for international players. And then against spin, he is powerful from the crease. So, a lot of Indian players are light on their feet. They have to come down the wicket to hit sixes down the ground. Rajat doesn't have to do that. He can hit sixes from the crease. He can even hit sixes when his weight is slightly back against spin. So therefore, he can hit sixes off different lengths. So those are skills that, as I said, when I'm looking for a high quality international player, whether it be scouting them or picking them in an international side, those are the skills that I look for. And Rajat has all of those. And he's also very calm. And I think that's why I'm not surprised how well he's done so far with the captaincy, because he's very calm under pressure. He doesn't appear to be flustered around his decision making, which is great. And I think that his use of bowlers sort of shows that he understands conditions very well as well. So, he's been highly impressive, pretty much what I would have expected. But I think a lot of fans and a lot of players from other sides or fans from other side wouldn't have seen that in Rajat. But he's a cool, calm character, and delighted that he's doing so well for RCB.
Yeah, that's some great insight. And you mentioned scouting. So RCB scouting over the years, it's been a hit or a miss. So for a common fan like me, can you just simplify the process of scouting, that how over a year you scout players and how much a management is involved with the scouts over the year?
Yeah, so when I was involved, when I first started, we had zero scouting. So we started to set up a scouting program where we had a head scout, and then as the years progressed, we employed up to another 3 scouts. Now, the 2 different levels. So we would send those scouts out initially to identify players. We would identify the particular roles that we wanted them to look for. So, and then they would come back with a shortlist pretty much. And once we had a shortlist, we would, we would try and find times where we were able to see them multiple times. So I guess, when you're looking for a player, you're looking at data, obviously, but you're looking at, scouting reports, what your scouts suggest of players. And then if you get the opportunity to see them live, then you can make your own judgment to add to that as well. So it's about sort of triangulating data. And it is a difficult process, especially when you're starting from scratch, in terms of trying to get that, that player base in your database and work out exactly, who you want. And then also you go through different scouts in terms of some that are better at identifying talent than others. It's very much a different skill, talent ID, than certainly just being a good player. So there are different attributes to it. It's also, you also might have players that you want to get, but in the end, you only have a certain budget at the auction as well. So you might not necessarily get the ones you always want. I remember Tilak Varma was certainly part of our scouting program and high up, but in the end, we were basically outbid because we didn't have a huge amount of purse at that time. But he's certainly one that we look back on and think it would have been nice if we went a little bit harder for him.
Yeah, would be nice if Tilak will be playing for RCB now or maybe in the future, who knows. So now coming to a question which many fans would love to hear from you, that what was your reaction when Virat decided to step down as RCB captain, and were you notified earlier or you came to know about when he joined the camp back?
Look, I wasn't surprised at all, and I think Virat had used a huge amount of energy, captaining India and of course RCB for many years. So, and when you know Virat, the thing that he does is he puts his heart and soul into the role. So, once I knew that he'd moved on from India, or through the process that unfolded, and some of it was his doing, some of it wasn't. Then I think he was quite content with that, the fact that he'd given everything. And then when he turned up at the RCB camp and sat down with, Sanjay Bangar and myself, I think it was Sanjay and I remember where it was. It was in Dubai.
Yeah, I think Katich stepped down and someone.
Yeah, that's right. So it was actually only, yeah. So I remember sitting down and Virat just saying, look, it's time for somebody else. I've given it everything, and I'm, I want to step down as captain. And it wasn't a surprise. I mean, I think we'd kind of alluded to it a few times prior to that. And it was just a good time. It was a good time for Virat to actually start enjoying his cricket without the extra pressure of being captain.
Coming to the last year's RCB comeback, like majority of that team was built under you or by you. Were you confident that RCB would make that kind of comeback after losing so many games in the start of the season?
Look, it was hard to be really confident, to be honest. I mean, I always had faith in the players that were there. Always had faith in Faf. I think Faf is an outstanding leader, as Virat is as well. I think they really missed the runs from Maxwell last year. I think they were, he had three very good years, or two excellent years and one good year out of the three before that. And the fact they missed his runs sort of got them to the point where they were really struggling. So it was an incredible comeback in terms of getting a little bit of confidence, and then all of a sudden playing some games at home where there was a little bit of spice in the wicket. The seamers stood up, and there was enough skill in that batting group, especially at the top with Virat and Faf, to be able to deal with the pace and bounce and the bit of movement in the surface better than the opposition. So once they got on that roll, it's amazing when you get your fans behind you at RCB, what's possible. So look, it was an incredible comeback, and one that was certainly built on the back of, as I said, some really good leadership within that group.
Yeah, that was a great time for RCB fan. So we have to talk about like Virat Kohli. When you were the coach of New Zealand, Virat was at peak of his powers. So what were your plans against him, and did they actually work? And then you observed Virat as your teammate and someone you will coach under RCB camp. So what makes him so different from others?
I think when Virat was at his peak, I remember, in the longer forms, maybe not T20, but certainly Test cricket and one-day cricket, you always wanted to take the ball a little bit wider to him. The one thing Virat doesn't do is he doesn't cut. So you can bowl fifth, sixth, seventh stump relatively full, and when you've got swing bowlers like Southey and co, occasionally you can nick him out. And he's not quite as strong when the ball's that bit wider. But if you bowl fifth stump, he's also capable of hitting that through wide mid-on. And that's what he did so many times, especially on good surfaces. So look, we had a little bit of success with that plan, probably better than we had with other plans. But yeah, as you said, he was absolute vintage touch. I remember the tour of New Zealand when Brendon McCullum got that 300. Virat got 100 in the second innings at the Basin. And we tried a bit of everything really, and he just didn't give us a sniff the whole time. And in one-day cricket during that period, he was unbelievable. I remember a 5-match series there where we couldn't take it off the middle of his bat, and we tried all sorts of different things. So, vintage Virat is, just an absolute pleasure to watch. And even when he's just normal, normal Virat, he's still pretty damn good. So, the thing that I really enjoyed when I was working with him was just that consistency around his desire to perform every day, and that's something that I've worked with a lot of international players, and everyone sort of has a bit of a down day or days where they don't quite turn up and have that energy and that spark, but not Virat. Virat is and it's not just his fitness; it's just that mental desire and an attitude to perform, every day for his country, or would it be for RCB? So, pleasure to work with.
Now, a small fun question. Like, if you given an opportunity, hypothetically, what would you do differently in the current RCB team?
Yeah, I would still have Maxwell over Livingstone.
Oh,
I just think he adds so much to that middle order. And I know he had a poor year last year, but on his day, he's incredible. And I think that that link that he has with the RCB fans and the way he can perform under pressure is probably one thing that I would have swapped. But Livingstone is a fine player. It's just I've got a lot of time for Glenn Maxwell in terms of his ability to play spin and take the pressure off the rest of that middle order. So that's one thing I would look at. Outside of that, I think it's a well balanced squad, and it's performing really nicely so far. So let's have a rethink at the halfway stage after 7 games, and I'll probably have a little bit more information then.
you were one of the few pioneers who brought the formula of attacking from the first ball alongside Baz McCullum before the 2015 World Cup. Like, what do you think of this approach in the IPL so far?
Yeah, I think it's you're obviously allowed to play that way, I guess, because of a couple of things. Obviously, good surfaces. The fact the ball hasn't swung yet much. It swung last night, probably for the first time that I've seen in the second innings. Outside of that, it hasn't swung a lot. So you get a good surface. The fact it doesn't swing, and you have an impact player, so you have an extra batter available to you, and you're able to play with freedom. And it's you've also got to have players that like doing that and have the skill to do that. And Phil Salt is one of those that, regardless of conditions, he loves to go hard at the ball from ball one, which is a huge skill in itself. So yeah, it's I love it. I love the just that intent, that um, the willingness to not even think about consequence, to just go out and want to take the game on, and it's quite refreshing. I think it brought a huge amount of different people to the game many years ago when there were players that were able to do that, and it just means you don't want to arrive late to any game, whether it be whether it be with Brendon McCullum or whether it be currently in the IPL watching many sides. It's not the sort of game you can turn up late to and think you're not going to miss much. So yeah, I just love that aggressive intent, the willingness to take the game on from ball one.
RCB fans often complain that the Chinnaswamy ground is the main reason why we never won a title. So what do you think about this opinion? The Chinnaswamy ground can be used as your power.
Oh, look, what I think is that the Chinnaswamy, when it's a flat wicket, brings in weaker batting sides, because they turn up and they're like, wow, how good is this? The ball flies, the ball comes on. It's very hard to defend at any time. So it kind of evens the game up. So, I did really like the way RCB went about it last year in terms of having a bit more life in the pitch, because then it goes down to skill. And I think that, RCB have always had a skillful batting lineup, at times at the neglect of a bowling lineup. And I think that, RCB, you have to have a good bowling side. But even a good bowling side, when Chinnaswamy is flat, will still go for plenty of runs. So I think they've got the right formula now in terms of having a bit of life in the pitch. The fans might not see those massive scores. They'll probably see the same ones they did a few years ago, the 180, 190, 200, but they won't see the 240, 250, which other grounds are seeing. And I think that is a good thing for RCB. I think if they can have those pitches, then the likes of Virat, Rajat, guys that have real batting skill, will still outperform other sides. And I think that their bowling lineup, especially with the likes of Hazelwood, Bhuvi, if there's a bit of life in the wicket, Yash Dayal, the fact he's able to swing it both ways, that brings the RCB seamers into the game. And I think they then can outbat other sides. So I think it's up to the surface. And rather than turning up and wanting runs, I think a balanced game certainly suits RCB in terms of trying to win more often at home.
Going back to the memory lane, do you remember the first time you got a call from the RCB management that we are approaching you for that role in RCB? And were you expecting it? And what were your reaction? And if I'm not wrong, you were with Punjab Kings at that time.
Look, I'd had 1 year at Punjab, and pretty much I didn't really enjoy it, if I'm brutally honest. I enjoyed the playing side, I enjoyed the players, but I just didn't really enjoy the environment hugely. So I'd left Punjab at that time, and that was sort of, that was pretty much by mutual decision, and so I was sort of looking at what I was going to do next. And then I got the call from so I got a call from Rajesh Menon, and just saying, was I interested in taking on a new role at RCB as the Director of Cricket. They'd appointed Simon Kadich at that time as head coach. They wanted somebody to come in and try and set up some, oversee the cricket side. And it was an exciting opportunity. I'd been head coach, in many sides, obviously New Zealand for 6 years. And been able to turn that around, and then had a taste of the IPL with Punjab. but it was a great opportunity, and one that, I'd always looked at RCB the 2 years before that when I was involved for the year, once in commentary with Star, and then the next year with Punjab, and looked at RCB as a team that hadn't quite got it right, and those were two pretty tough years. So I was delighted to come in and work with that group. Help get together a coaching team and prepare for the season ahead. Work with Virat around recruitment for that year. And Simon Kadich, and get stuck into it. So yeah, I do remember the call. I certainly wasn't expecting it, but once I got it, it was a pretty easy decision to make.
Yeah, surely one of the best things that has happened to RCB in those 18 years. You are one of the most successful New Zealand national side coach. What is the major difference between coaching an IPL side and a national team?
Yeah, it's a shorter turnaround. So I guess you're trying to create a culture in a short space of time with players from all around the world in the IPL, and that is a different challenge than internationally. You've got 3 different formats. So obviously Test cricket, ODIs, and T20. So you do have players coming and going, but you have them for sort of 10 months a year. So you're able to develop that culture and then keep building on it. And then when players come in, they're coming into an already ingrained culture and style of play. Whereas each year with a franchise, you're starting with a new group in many instances. So you're having to build that group really quickly, that understanding around the style of play, how you want to play, and trying to get that team gelling really quickly. So yeah, quite different, and both lots of fun though.
Yeah, and for a normal fan like me, can you just explain the difference between a head coach and a director of cricket operation?
Sure. So the head coach, is in charge of the coaching group. So they look after, your batting, bowling, fielding coach. They look after, your day-to-day trainings and so forth. They have relationships with, with the players and the coaches in terms of running one-on-ones or so forth. The director of cricket sort of oversees the whole cricket side. So the coaches. So as a director of cricket, I was always involved in the strategy meetings with the head coach and the leadership group. But often you work as a conduit between the owners or the board of directors and the coaching group. So you're the go-between. So you meet a lot of times with the owners or the board of directors and answer a lot of questions around what's happening with the team. You also look after the medical side. So you travel with a large team now in the IPL. So as director of cricket, you're looking after, as I said, the whole medical side, which is doctors, sports psychs, physios, massage therapists. You're looking after the data side, so your data analysts. You're in charge of things like the scouting program, or you're sort of overseeing the scouting program, which is another arm of the business. And yeah, you're basically more strategic than you are day-to-day operations. And I guess with my experience being a head coach, I was always involved in a lot of the cricket discussions day to day, but I was also there to support the head coach. And that was part of my role, was to be there to support and be an ear to the ground, and also work with the odd player one-on-one as well when the opportunity arose.
Yeah, and under your management, RCB bought the team in WPL as well.
Yep.
What is the future of WPL and how it will increase the popularity of women's cricket?
Well, I think it's already done that so far, and it's only going to do it more so in the years to come. You look at the players that came into the auction this year compared to the first year. There are so many better players, and they've basically got to that point because they've had 18 months, 2 years of going, hey, I want to be part of this. And so many more talented youngsters in India are coming through already. The first year I think was probably based majority on, sure, the Indian players, but mainly the overseas. So all the players that already played international cricket. Now you've got major contributions from players that are haven't been seen yet that come straight into the WPL and perform. So, once that starts to do that, then the domestic standard in India will increase, and then it'll exponentially get better and better. So, it's an exciting project to be a part of. I think we formed a really good year, a really good group that first year, the WPL. We had a couple of key players that didn't have great years, and that was probably the difference between doing really well that first year and the second year, where obviously they won, and also the progress of the likes of Ashish Shabana and Sriyanka Patel. Even Rishi Ghosh, got more and more confident after that first year. So, we were able to form a really good Indian core, and I think that will always hold the team in good stead for more than 1 year. And I was always pretty confident that we got a pretty good group together.
From a fan's perspective, I think if we would have an excellent season from Renuka or Megan Shoot, then the result may have been different. But then the next year, RCB fans got their first trophy, and it was one of the best nights of our life. So you have the experience of coaching not so mainstream teams as well. For example, Kenya and Argentina. So any interesting incidents from there, and how it is different from coaching a mainstream international team and someone like Kenya or Argentina?
Yeah, I mean, Kenya and Argentina are both probably two different ends of the spectrum. I mean, I coached Argentina 2004, I think it was, and that was actually great for my coaching, because you can't rely on anybody else. You're the head coach, but you actually are also the bowling coach, the batting coach, the fielding coach.
Learning on the job.
Well, you do everything, and you also a different language, which I think is really important. You go and coach a different country. Spanish or Castellano was the language in Argentina at the time. So you take yourself outside your comfort zone as a coach. And I think that's really important for any developing coach. Not necessarily to travel abroad, but certainly take yourself out of your home base. Take yourself to different places where you've got to find your feet and learn how to coach in a different environment. And Kenya was the same. I really loved the players in both places, Argentina and Kenya. The passion to learn, the passion to understand the game a little bit better, and try and be as good as you can be. And I guess that's all you want as a coach. But very different facilities. Like, facilities are always a struggle, so you've got to find ways to make it work, and you can't expect everything to be handed to you on a plate. So those are some really important qualities that I think I learned pretty early on in my coaching career.
You have a great cricketing brain, and we have seen that through the years. So you now decided to share your knowledge through your social media. We see you now more on Twitter, and you now have your own YouTube channel. So what was the main idea behind it?
Well, I work for Sky TV over here in New Zealand, and they basically lost the rights to cricket, and they get them back in a year's time. So I sort of during the home summer here in New Zealand, there was a bit of a void in terms of if I wasn't going over to India and working for Geo or Star, then I had a whole heap of followers on my different social channels, but I didn't really offer them a lot. So I thought, look, here's an opportunity to start up a YouTube channel, to not be tied down by any particular views, to just be able to talk about what you see, and give your insights. And that was pretty much the reason for it. And we pretty much had no idea what I was going to do initially. It was pretty it was actually pretty average content, the first few videos, and then I sort of stumbled upon a bit of a formula that people were enjoying, and it's pretty appropriate, I guess, myself and a whiteboard, talking about cricket and talking about different matchups and tactics and things that could evolve during a game. So it's not necessarily about picking the winner or whatever. It's more about the detail of the game in terms of how things could unfold and what matchups to keep an eye on, and just giving a different insight to viewers rather than just the norm that you get on channels where you're quite restricted in terms of what you can and can't say.
Okay, so any such instance that you want to share, you want to talk about something and the broadcaster says that you can't talk about this, only if you're allowed to share?
No, I mean the thing is, often your broadcasts are scripted. So if you've got like preview shows or whatever, you already know what you're going to talk about. So sometimes you can add some detail in there in terms of you want to talk about certain players, but often your broadcasts are set up to talk about the key players all the time. So we hear a huge amount about Virat and Rohit and Bumrah and co. And often it's the ability to talk about players underneath that often the viewers don't hear a lot about. It's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy talking about some of the local talent that doesn't get a lot of airtime, or some of the international stars that people don't really know a huge amount about. And it's more about how they go about their work and when they might bowl and what things to look out for. So I certainly enjoy that, as I said, rather than just talking about the same players over and over again, which you sometimes have to do.
Anything that we can expect from you in upcoming days? I think you have PSL ahead of you starting from 11th of April. Your views on your team this year and any message to Islamabad fans?
Yeah, look, I head away in a few days actually, on Thursday. So, I guess the difficult thing is, I won't be able to do as much content on the IPL, obviously, because I'll be working in the PSL, and I won't be doing content in things that I'm working in, obviously, for obvious reasons. But obviously, we won the title last year. My first time with Islamabad United, was their third title. We've got an exciting group of players. I think the challenge with having the PSL at the same time as the IPL is obviously around players. But I think we've been quite lucky that we've been able to get some really good players with my side, Islamabad United. Matthew Short is a player who has had a go in the IPL with Punjab. Didn't quite get as many opportunities as would have liked, or his performance wasn't good enough to get more opportunities, but he's in fine form at the moment, as we would have seen in the Champions Trophy. So looking forward to seeing how he goes. And also the likes of Riley Meredith. Obviously he's been in the IPL a few times. He's got genuine pace. And you align that with some of the talented Pakistani players, and really looking forward to seeing, Shadab Khan and Salman Ali Agha again. They've just come from New Zealand, where they had a pretty good tour individually, or Salman did. But looking forward to seeing them transfer that into the PSL. What I will do on my channel on Coach Hesson, though, is add a few more insights into what it's like in a support staff, and talk in a bit more detail about the different roles that are within a support staff. And I'll talk about that, from an RCB point of view as well. So there'll be plenty of fans out there that would love to get involved in RCB, and I sort of talk about the different jobs that are available to take up. So, and I'll give a few more insights into my history as a coach as well. So, plenty of content out there, but I certainly won't be able to do as many sort of previews and reviews as I will when I'm working in a different competition.
Yeah, but a request from an RCB fan that don't stop making content on RCB.
Sure.
Any message to the RCB fans?
Yeah, look, I think, certainly from an RCB point of view, fans, just be patient. And I know you've been patient for 18 years, but be patient throughout the year, because, RCB have started the season really strongly. They will have some ups and downs, so don't lose faith. And I think that's important, is that RCB need to be playing their best cricket at the end of the year, not the start. And that's the way they'll get there, is being nice and consistent around selection, and not getting too flustered when they have a bad day. So all I request RCB fans, continue to support your team as you always do, and even through when they have a couple of downs. And if they do that, then I'm sure they will be in contention come the playoff time. So, look, I still think, my top four has probably changed a little bit from what I have seen so far, but I think Mumbai will still be there, especially if they get Bumrah back. We saw last night that when they get it right, they're still pretty daunting. KKR have probably been a bit disappointing in the batting side. Not just last night, but 2 out of the 3 games. So they're probably sliding out of my top 4. But they'll be thereabouts. I think Delhi's been impressive. RCB's been impressive. And I think Punjab have only had the 1 game, so it's a bit early. But those are probably 4 that are certainly the form sides at the moment. Whether they'll be there at the back end, then as I said, come and talk to me after about 7 rounds when we see a little bit more of each side.
Yeah, surely. You were very honest with your answers, and we can't thank you enough for your generosity. Like, we just messaged you and you accepted our invite. My message is to RCB fans that your favorite Mike Hesson is now on YouTube and he has an active Twitter account, so you can now follow him on his socials and the links are in description. Mike, what was your like experience talking with us and any parting thoughts?
Oh, look, I think I always enjoy talking to RCB fans that are aware of the game, and not just fans, I guess, ones that really understand the detail of the game. So I always enjoy talking to people that understand the intricacies and have been supporters for RCB sort of through thick and thin. And I think that's why I'll always have a real soft spot in my heart for RCB, no matter who I work for. They've certainly been a pleasure to work for, and I wish RCB all the very best. I'll certainly be supporting them when they win that first title. And albeit I won't be a fan as such in terms of, I'll be honest in my approach and will continue to do so as a broadcaster, but I'll certainly be a fan deep down.
Yeah, Mike. So thank you so much for your time and generosity. I hope we talk again in some time.
Sounds good. Pleasure. Nice to talk.
Thank you.